Peace and blessings, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we are going to be talking about what is a sacrifice. So, after doing this study, I'm 100% convinced that we do not know what a sacrifice is. And if we knew what a sacrifice was, I think the world would be a totally different place. So let's think about what a sacrifice is, and of course we're going to look to see what Mother Nature has to say about it. Where do we see it in their creation? We know the example is there, just like every medicine we have is there. Every innovation we have comes from creation. There are models for these things in creation. That's how we can go back and find the original nature and answers for things. So in this case, what is this sacrifice? So you think you're making all these changes in your life, there's got to be a reason why you're not seeing the difference, right? So are you really making a sacrifice? So, today I think most of us think of a sacrifice as giving something away that we love, maybe for a good reason or whatever it may be. Maybe helping somebody out. You gave them some money. You gave them some money out of your pocket that you could have used for something else. Is that a sacrifice to you? Some people will say, yes, it is, right? But is it? Or is that just a nice charitable good deed that you did? Just being nice and out of kindness, right? So let's look at some other examples, right? So maybe you're saying, my sacrifice is, I didn't do something that I really wanted to do because it was bad. I made a good judgment call, right? So was it a sacrifice or did you just make a good judgment call? Like maybe you prevented something bad from happening, but what's the sacrifice? Okay, no, that's not it. Another one may be you gave up your time, some of your time. Some of us will say, well, we sacrificed our time and spent it with someone else or spent it doing something beneficial, right? So you're not doing anyone a favor by doing what you're supposed to be doing anyway. So 9 times out of 10, the time that you're talking about is time you were supposed to be spending with that person anyway, whether it's your spouse or your child or whomever. Usually that's really what it boils down to. So no, that's not a sacrifice. That's something you're actually supposed to be doing. So to clarify, if it's something you're supposed to be doing, you're not sacrificing. Okay, so let's take a look at what it is. What is the real definition of sacrifice? We've been talking about the sheep in nature and where we see certain aspects of the sheep in human behavior and what we should take from the sheep. So keep that in mind because this is also a part of those episodes. And we'll get to that. So let's look at the physical first. You always look at the physical first to get ideas about the meaning of things, right? That's your sign, the physical sign. So to take the life of something and then to prepare it and to share it so that other people can consume it and sustain themselves. So of course I'm going to break it down for you so that you can understand. So if we have a visual, you may actually see a photograph or a picture in your mind of an animal being slaughtered and then maybe prepared and sat on the dinner table for the family or for the community or for whatever. So you're ending its present life or its present situation to turn it into something that can be digested and able to sustain someone else. The more you can feed people, the more food you have that you've prepared and you're able to share, the better, right? Put this picture in your mind. So the origin of sacrifice comes from the animal or plant that is cut off from its life in order to be cut up, picked apart, chewed, basically, reformed so that you can digest it and sustain yourself for continued life. That is the ultimate sacrifice. That is the ultimate sacrifice. That's the sacrifice given to us in creation. And that is those are the rules of sacrifice. There are rules to sacrifice if you want to see some sort of a change or some sort of benefit. So not the lazy definition that we've created for ourselves. Okay, so when you look at this, to take the life of something or take from the life of something, um, to prepare it, meaning, like I said, you could be seasoning it, cutting it up, putting it in the fire, whatever changes you need to make to it to prepare it so that it can be used and consumed by someone else, right? To benefit someone else. A lot goes into that. I mean, think about it. I mean, if you were, let's look at it from the standpoint of preparing food. You had to think about what you were going to eat. You had to go hunt the animal. You had to go pick the crop. You had to peel it. You had to skin it, whatever. You had to cut it up, maybe even debone it. You had to find the right seasonings for it. You had to cook it, whatever you had to do to make it something that someone could actually consume, right? And digest, right? We could say understand. So someone could take in and understand. And then once they consume it, after they consume it, it's able to sustain them, right? So you can understand why we go to Mother Nature to see the original answers of things. Because, like I said, we've gotten super lazy, and changing these definitions so that we can live the lives we want to live. Look how great that's turning out, right? But the animals and plants, they give up their lives. They make the ultimate sacrifice. Um, we'd have to ask, what part of our lives are we willing to sacrifice in this kind of a way, right? To transform it into something that can help someone else. So let's look at some things, right? So the religious communities fast, right? The religious communities fast. Now let's take a look at what we're talking about here, right? I consider myself a very rational person, and I'm going to question everything. Okay, and sometimes it can be a little bit offensive to people that are not thinking about it, or just don't want to think about it, don't care. But we're at a time, we're at a time now where we have to be conscious of everything we're doing. We can no longer just be ritualistic. We can no longer just haphazardly do things. The planet is suffering, humanity is suffering. Again, we have to start paying attention to humanity. Get over yourself and start thinking a little bit beyond yourself. So let's look at the religious communities. The fasting season. So some of us see it as, okay, I'm not going to eat meat. I'm just not going to I'm going to stop eating red meat, or I'm going to stop eating meat. Okay. All right, I'm going to fast for 30 days. I'm going to fast for 30 days. I'm not going to eat from sunrise to sunset, right? And I'm going to read my scriptures. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so 30 days go by, or 2 weeks, or however long your religious fast is. Done. Did that, finished it. I'm talking to my friends about it. Yeah, I fasted Ramadan, or I fasted for Passover, or what have you. It was great. How was it? It was good. I wasn't that hungry. What'd you eat? I had some oatmeal, some protein. I like to eat eggs, kind of keep me full throughout the day. Okay. All right. So then the year goes on, right? And you go right back. I have a problem with this. I really do have a problem with this. And we shouldn't be wondering or fantasizing or daydreaming about change if this is how we're going to approach things. So where's the sacrifice? What part of this is the sacrifice? That you were hungry? That can't be the sacrifice. That's not going to help. That's not going to help anybody. You're going to have food later. You're going to have food at night, and you're going to have food when the fast is over. So I don't know. I mean, I have a real problem with it. But, that's just me. I'm hoping other people will have a problem with it as well. But when we pick up food, just imagine if every time we picked up something to eat, we remembered what a sacrifice really was, what the animal does, how he gives up his life, how the plant is a living thing and gives up its life, and how we reorganize it, reform it, reshape it, and consume it, and get to continue to live. That's what the blessing is supposed to be for. When you say your blessings, when you're getting ready to eat, it's a tribute to the life that has sacrificed itself so that you can continue to live yours. That should bring gratitude to your mind. you know. But if you're just gonna, that's your fast and that's your sacrifice, then good luck making change because it's not going to do it. So let's go back to some of the aforementioned examples I gave earlier so that we can bring them into reality regarding sacrifice. So we mentioned giving money to help someone. How do we turn this into a sacrifice opposed to just a good deed or charity, right? You'd have to take the life of something or take from the life of something, just as we do plants and animals, prepare it, meaning organize it into something that you can give the person that they can digest and process, right? That they can understand and then utilize it to sustain their life. This would mean that they would no longer have to ask for money, right? Problem solved. This is what a sacrifice does. This is the outcome of the sacrifice, not just handing them money. Let's look at one of the other examples I mentioned. You decided that you were going to keep yourself from doing something that you had no business doing, right? I'm not going to smoke that weed. I'm not going to go out with this person and be alone with this person because I don't want anything to happen. I'm not going to, your idea of a sacrifice. What makes it a sacrifice? It would mean getting the information that you need and then altering it into something that you can use in order to keep you from doing what you're not supposed to be doing in the first place. Then sharing this model with others so that they can benefit from it. Some people call it writing books, autobiographies, things that they think, okay, let me turn my life experience into something that people can understand and consume for themselves and use and help them, right? Next example, sacrificing your time in order to give it to someone else. We talked about that earlier. This would be, how do you turn this into a sacrifice? It would be finding a way to ensure that you always have time, taking from examples, maybe other people's examples it could be, but organizing it so that you never have to worry about not distributing your time properly, right? And then sharing this formula, you prepared it, you seasoned it, whatever you got to do to get it right so that you can share it with someone and it tastes good to them enough where they'll eat it and use it in their life. You understand what I'm saying? So that is what a sacrifice really is. So throughout history, people have had the wrong idea of sacrifice and have set themselves back, just like we are today. I mean, you have people throwing virgins into volcanoes and stuff. I thought that was like a myth growing up, but come to find out, it wasn't. It was real. And my thing was that, okay, that's real, that's kind of trifling. Like, instead of doing the work to fix whatever's wrong, to fix whatever's going on, whatever it could have been, would have been, you're going to just throw a virgin into a volcano. It sounds crazy, but I think what we're doing is crazy too. Instead of trying to do the work to go in and say, how can I take this? I've been successful. How can I take this and turn it into something that someone can use? Now, the ultimate sacrifice is going to be if you can take what you've used and turn it into something that someone who needs help, so a person that actually needs help. A lot of times, people will do things for people that don't necessarily need the help. It's nice, it was a nice gesture, but they don't necessarily need the help. Just like feeding a person who's hungry, we get hungry every day, right? Versus feeding a person who's starving, like they literally don't know where their next meal is coming from. Those are two different things. But in order to do that, the hungry person or the person in need, like I would say, as a religious person, I would say the religious community is in desperate need of being able to understand and implement religious knowledge, that we're not able to consume it. We're able to be ritualistic because we can't consume it, because if we could consume it, we'd be utilizing it and you would see great change. You would see the world moving in a certain way. We would be the envy of all of the people. Everyone would want to be a part of this model. So that's how we know we're not making the sacrifice that we need to make. But in order to do that, somebody would have to go in and say, hey, how can I make this something that my people can understand? Something that, same thing with a mother and a child, right? How can I take this information, what's going on outside of the house, and change the language to turn it into something that my child can digest and benefit from and sustain themselves with so that they can continue to grow? So that's what a real sacrifice is. That's what a real sacrifice does. So, just to backtrack a little bit, I want to remind us that we were talking about the sheep and what this animal actually means and what does it have to do with sacrifice. So you've heard the term sacrificial lamb, right? The sacrificial lamb. First of all, we said that the sheep was the obedient consumer, meaning that they consume, right? They take in, they consume, but that they also are a follower, an obedient consumer, meaning that they have a shepherd, right? So who is this person? The person that consumes, that's all of us. But the person that's being led to consume, that's pretty much all of us as well. We're obedient consumers, even if we don't want to acknowledge that someone is making us buy the things or consume the things that we consume. Um, Also, not only is this the obedient consumer who follows the leader, we also said that this was a person that gives back as much as they consume. So if you want to hear about these things, go look at some of my other videos that talk about the different human behaviors found in sheep nature, right? This is going back to Mother Nature to find out about ourselves and our similarities and find solutions and answers. So here's the thing, the sacrificial lamb. Who doesn't want a piece of a person who's like this? You're obedient, you're obedient consumer, you follow the leader, you're giving back as much as you consume. Like, that's the ultimate person. Who doesn't want a piece of lamb chop? You know what I'm saying? So, this is why this animal symbolizes the sacrifice, hence the term the sacrificial lamb. So these characteristics, when we're looking at the sheep, as I've said many times before, this is an excellent animal to study for human character. And it is one of the reasons why sheep are considered one of the animals of sacrifice. There are others, like the goat, the camel, what is it, sheep, goat, camel, and there is another one that I can't think of at this very moment. But considered animals of sacrifice. Before I go, I want to leave you with this. Okay, this is a good way to understand all of this. This is what the inventor does. The person who is an inventor, this is the type of mind that they have, this type of creative mind. And when we shut this down, when we stop thinking for ourselves, we're not able to make sacrifices. We're not going to be able to make sacrifices. You have to have this type of mind to make a sacrifice, a mind that says, how can I be creative enough to take something from the life and turn it into something that people can consume and use and continue to grow? That takes a very creative mind. It takes a different kind of mind than the average person, right? So, one of the things that I enjoy by studying creation, studying scripture, is that it gives me a chance to find that again, to find that mindset. That's the true human mindset. Not this one where we're unable to think beyond what we've been told by television or what we've been exposed to. You have to be able to use your own mind. So I'd like for you to subscribe to this channel. If you haven't subscribed, this is good information. I think this information is very helpful. It's changed my life. So please subscribe and share. Also stay tuned, because this last episode on the sheep, I have several episodes on sheep behavior and human behavior. Where do we see it in Mother Nature? Where do we see it in creation? Go back and listen to those. But this last one, we're going to be talking about racism. What does Mother Nature have to say about it? So interesting. You just stay tuned so that you can hear this. This is going to be good. All right, I'll see you next time. Peace and blessings.